So you don't go to church. Let me show you why. Getting established in a church that teaches the full Word of God is vital for spiritual growth and maturity. Such a church provides a solid foundation rooted in biblical truth, offering guidance, wisdom, and support for navigating life's challenges. It offers a community of believers who can encourage, challenge, and edify one another, fostering a deeper relationship with Yahweh and a stronger commitment to living out His Word. By aligning with a church that prioritizes the full counsel of Scripture, individuals can grow in faith, understanding, and obedience, equipping them to effectively serve and witness in the world. This is Dr. Ray, and welcome to this week's Hosea International Speaks. In last week's session, we started on the church, the Ekklesia, of Yahweh's habitation and dwelling place. In other words, a place where He will choose to live and abide, where He can begin to manifest Himself. The last thing we want to do is build a place for Yahweh and He stays for a short time, or He's just there for a visit. We need to build a place where Yahweh will stay permanently, a place that is built to keep His presence. We want to look at 4 Old Testament characters and 1 New Testament character in cultivating the Ekklesia. Number 1, when Solomon was dedicating the temple, he said that Yahweh wanted it built so that He will keep His name in the temple. His name represents His person, His nature, His word, His purpose, His power, His ways, and His acts. It represents every attribute of the Godhead. When we build the church or the Ekklesia accurately for His presence, then His name will dwell there. He will put His seal of approval upon the work and approve the works of our hands. This house will be filled with all the attributes of Yahweh. He will manifest Himself in the house just like He did in the temple. Church leaders through the years have built the house according to their own desires to propagate their own agendas. That's probably why you don't want to attend church. Those who seek Him and desire Him earnestly must build it right and build it in the way He wants it. This house of Yahweh will then become His dwelling place, and He will manifest Himself there. The second Old Testament character we want to look at is Gideon, who knew the secret of knowing Yahweh's presence in his life. He knew how to keep the angel of Yahweh's presence with him by offering the sacrifice and his worship. The presence of Yahweh will linger and remain with us. We must discover the secret of making Him stay a little longer. Judges chapter 6 reveals or tells about Gideon's story, 16 and 17 of chapter 6. And it says, "So Gideon said to him, 'Now if I have found favor in your sight, then show me a sign that it is you who speak with me. Please do not depart from here until I come back to you and bring out my offering and lay it before you.' And he said, 'I will remain until you come.'" And continuing in verses 22 and 23 of that same chapter, Gideon continues, "When Gideon saw that he was the angel of Yahweh, he said, 'Alas, Yahweh Elohim, for now I have seen the angel of Yahweh face to face.' The Lord said to him, 'Peace to you, do not fear, you shall not die.'" Let's look at the third Old Testament character, which basically we set before us as one, as the father of the faith, and that is Abraham, who knew the angel of Yahweh will linger on if he finds favor in his sight. And the angel did stay until he had done all that he desired to present and to offer in sacrifice. This encounter was well pleasing that the angel went on to reveal Yahweh's sovereign purpose to Abraham. In other words, he already knows the confidence that's going to be shown, but he wants you, the individual, to do that. This encounter with the angelic host took Abraham to the next level as the father of many nations and gave him the power to negotiate the destinies of cities. Genesis chapter 18 reveals that story, verses 3-5, and it says, "And he, Abraham, said, 'My Lord, now if I have found favor in your sight, please do not pass your servant by. Please let a little water be brought and wash your feet and rest yourself under the tree, and I will bring a piece of bread that you may refresh yourself. And after that, you may go on, since you have visited your servant.' And they said, 'So do as you have said.'" And we know the story that Abraham actually told the servant to go and prepare the calf, and there was a feast set before the angel of God. The concept of this modern day church, this Ekklesia, as being the habitation of Yahweh, carries with it the ability to know what Yahweh wants and how to secure his presence and name with us. This will release the divine favor and provisions of Yahweh upon your life. And as Psalm 23:6 says, "Surely the goodness and mercy will follow us all the days of our life, and we will dwell in the house of Yahweh forever." We will discover that Yahweh will lead and guide and feed and restore us, anoint and overflow us with his goodness. Those who build the Ekklesia as Yahweh's house and habitation must know him intimately to know what he wants. And coming before him day after day after day is one of those things that you will need to do to find out what Yahweh wants. We cannot build on what we assume he likes, but on what we know has been revealed to us as the divine pattern. So much of his truth concerning his house has been revealed and released to us. We must choose to pattern the house according to what has been built from above. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. In other words, what are the plans and purposes of Yahweh and what he wishes to bring down here on earth? He will reveal that to us. And when we build his house for his name and for his presence, then it will become his habitation and eternal dwelling place. The Ekklesia is the most unique place on the earth. First of all, it is where Yahweh dwells and inhabits. This is his new address on the earth. And that's why when we build, we must build so that he becomes very comfortable in this new place. He can slip in and out of heaven and find an identical place here on earth where he can feel at home. That's exactly why we must have eyes, spiritual eyes, to see what's being done in heaven so that we can bring forth that down here to the earth. This is the revelation which was given to our fourth Old Testament character, Jacob, when he was at Bethel. The certain place where he lodged became an awesome place where Yahweh dwelled. This is the house of Yahweh where he dwells. Let's look at Genesis chapter 28, 11, verse 11 and 16 and 17. And it says, and he, talking about Jacob, came to a certain place and spent the night there because the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of the place and put it under his head, lay down in that place. Then in verses 26, 16, and 17, then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? So a certain place became an awesome place. This is none other than the house of Yahweh, or Bethel. This is the gate of heaven. The angels were ascending and descending in that place. The entire region became an open heaven territory when Abraham first moved his altars from Ai to Bethel to call upon Yahweh. And we can read that in Genesis chapter 13, verses 3 through 4. And he, talking about Abraham, went on his journeys from the Negev as far as Bethel to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, to the place where his tent had been between Bethel and Ai, to the place of the altar which he had made there formerly. And there Abram called on the name of Yahweh. Abraham had secured access to him and the heavens for the generations to come. And that access extends to us today. Through his relationship and covenant with Yahweh, generations connected to him by faith began to prevail and exercise dominion in the earth. And we've been talking about that dominion that we had to begin to do in the last few classes or sessions that we had. So when Jacob rested that night, he found himself in the presence of Yahweh, of Abraham and Isaac, chapter 28 and 13. 20 years later, Jacob returned to this region and still found the heavens opened. Genesis chapter 32, 1 and 2. Now as Jacob went on his way, the angels of Elohim met him. Jacob said when he saw them, this is Yahweh's camp. So he named that place Mahanaim. He realized that it was Yahweh's camping ground on the earth. It was Yahweh's country. It was Yahweh's dwelling place, and that it would be the best place to camp for the night. The safety of his family would be secured in Yahweh's presence. Jacob realized that he had met 20 years prior, not only stayed with him in the land of the Chaldeans, but was also there to meet and to transact with him for the future. Jacob wanted Yahweh as his guide, his protector, his provider, and his security. In that is what we all want. Genesis chapter 28, verses 20-22 says, then Jacob made a vow saying, if Yahweh will be with me and will keep me on this journey that I take and will give me food to eat and garments to wear, and I return to my father's house in safety, then Yahweh will be Elohah, my God. This stone which I set up as a pillar will be God's house, and of all that you give me, I will surely give you a tenth. This is the revelation that would carry forward into the New Testament by Paul, as he acknowledged, that is our fifth person, but one of the New Testament, that those who are of the household of faith are part of Abraham's household. And you can read that in Romans chapter 4, verse 16. The Son came to model how this can be possible, this life can be lived on the earth. Now, let me leave you with this. If you do not attend any church, find one that teaches the full word of Yahweh and get planted. Well, if you enjoyed this week's session, go ahead and hit the like button. And if you wish to be notified the next time we go and upload the session, subscribe. You can write me here at Hosea International at yahoo.com or into Hosea INT Speaks at gmail.com. And if you still wish to give, go ahead and scan the QR code. This is Dr. Ray, and I will see you next week on Hosea International Speaks.